So those of you who watch this channel pretty often know that I try to stick as close to tech topics as I can, because I know that when you discuss religion or when you discuss politics, things can get a little bit hairy. As it is, I get insults on the way that I look, the way that I talk, the topics I cover, almost every day, in email, in private message, on the comments. But every now and then, I have to step out of the tech realm because something happens that gets me so inflamed, so angry, that I have to respond. And today, one of those things, well, I guess earlier this week, one of those things happened, and it continues to happen. And I'm so mad right now that I had to take to video and discuss it with you guys. Those of you who've been following the news probably know what's going on in Egypt right now. Basically, the people have said they had enough of Hosni Mubarak's dictatorship, and that's what it is. It is a dictatorship. And they've decided to take their country back. They are uprising, they're protesting in the streets, they're burning government buildings, they're attacking some of Mubarak's installations, and they're basically waging war against the dictator, trying to oust him. And Mubarak has, of course, in true dictatorial style, sent out the military, sent out the police to silence the protesters. At some point, the police have said, you know what, we're not going to fight you guys. They were seen giving them water and shaking their hands and hugging them. And when Mubarak decided that he was going to call out the military because the police weren't doing what he wanted to do, the police began taking their uniforms off and blending in with the crowd and fighting along with their fellow Egyptians. So that's a good thing. But the disturbing part, and this is really the main thrust of this video, is that earlier this week, when a senior senator called Mubarak a dictator, Vice President Joe Biden, the Vice President of the U.S., defended Mubarak and said, don't call him a dictator. He's not a dictator. And he's made that statement several times this week. In fact, every time somebody has come up and called Mubarak a dictator, it seems that Vice President Joe Biden is quick to run to his defense. Not that he has any defense at all, really, for the actions that he's done. So, Joe Biden, I want to ask you this. I mean, and those of you who may be in the administration that watch this, that may watch this, or those of you who have connections to the administration that watch this, I challenge you to bring this up. How do you, Joe Biden, define a dictator? Mubarak has denied his own people food. He's rationed food. He's rationed water. He's turned off communications whenever things didn't go well for him and his cronies. He's cut off the internet in Egypt. He's tried to censor the media. All things that whenever Ahmadinejad in Iran was doing these, we called him a dictator and we supported his overthrow, even though it didn't happen. So Joe Biden, how did you get so messed up in your own worldview? And I have my own answer to this, but how did you get so messed up in your own worldview that you can sit there and tell the American people and tell members of Congress that Hosni Mubarak is not a dictator? He fits all of the points for a dictator. He has all of the earmarks of a dictator, and yet you, Joe Biden, the vice president of supposedly the freest country in the world, sits there and defends him. Now, we could go into a bunch of speculation as to why that would be. We know that the administrations for the past 30 years have had really close relationships with the Mubarak administration, and there's a lot of exchange going on and commerce going on, and we want to keep Mubarak as our friend as long as he's a dictator. But to sit there and say that he's not a dictator, to deny the human lives that he's taken, to devalue human beings in the name of commerce, because that's really what this is. If we had no financial interest in Egypt at all, we wouldn't care if Mubarak fell or if Mubarak was overthrown. We would be sitting there going, yes, he's a dictator, you know, the same way that we're doing in Iran. And so when do we begin putting human lives below commerce? And I know it happens all the time, and it's wrong. And Joe Biden, you should be ashamed of yourself. Barack Obama, you should be ashamed of yourself. Sitting there and saying that you know, you called upon Mubarak not to use violence. It's kind of like saying you called upon Hitler to hug a Jew. It's not going to happen. And you and your administration and the administrations before you, this doesn't just fall on Barack Obama, should be absolutely ashamed of yourself for continuing a relationship with the Mubarak government. Just like you should be ashamed of yourself for continuing a relationship with the Chinese government and continuing any relationships with all the other dictatorial governments around the world. But in particular, Egypt is a particularly horrible government. He is not democratically elected to Barack Obama, like you said. He won the vote just like Ahmadinejad won the vote, and how Saddam Hussein in Iraq would win the vote whenever he was elected with, 100% approval rating. Mubarak is a dictator, and how dare you think that the American people are that stupid that we can't watch the news, that we can't follow world events, and that we're going to be suckered in by your commerce-driven, money-bagged, banker-bagged rhetoric saying that Mubarak is not a dictator just because you want something from him. This administration, this dictatorial administration in Egypt must fall, and it must fall soon because Mubarak is a dictator, and all dictators must be removed. And that goes for Ahmadinejad, that goes for the government of North Korea, that goes for the government of China, and that goes for the government of Egypt. Doesn't matter whether or not we have a financial relationship with them. It goes to it speaks to the heart of human rights. It speaks to the heart of what's good and what's right and what America should and used to stand for. Just because the government is now run by corporate greedy interests who want to get oil, who want to get commerce, who want to get goods from all these dictators, doesn't mean that we abandon the basic human good. Shame on you, Joe Biden. Shame on you, Barack Obama. Shame on the entire administration for not standing up with the people of Egypt and saying, take your country back, because that's what you should be doing. And I'm ashamed of all of you, but I'm not surprised.